Anson,
It's cold and wet out there.
press the button. Do you want to share? Yes, I do.
Yes, I do. Thanks, man. Yeah. Everything in construction stops. And
That's enough to traumatize somebody with a new driver.
So we'll call the meeting to order. Lord, we'd like to thank you for putting your strong arm protection around us and waking us to see another day, Lord. You know we're everything with you and nothing without you. And we just ask, we just want to say thank you, Lord, and just lead us in the path of righteousness, give us strength, and put your strong arm protection around this meeting, Lord, and bless our state, our county, and our city. These and other blessings we ask in your name. Amen. Roll call.
Commissioner Ashworth?
Here.
Commissioner Thorne?
Here.
Commissioner Clark?
Here.
Commissioner Max?
Here.
Commissioner Jordan? Commissioner Hawkins?
Here.
Commissioner Steen?
here.
Commissioner Safley?
Here.
Has everyone had opportunity to review the minutes? Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Commissioner Clark?
Aye.
Commissioner Thorne?
Aye.
Commissioner Jordan? Commissioner Safley?
Aye.
Commissioner Max?
Aye.
Commissioner Ashworth?
Aye.
Commissioner Steen?
Aye.
All right, our first item is PL 1748, 1791 Wooten Drive variance. Request for a fence variance to encroach 10 feet into the setback. The subject property is located on the south side of Andrews Way, west side of Wooten Drive, more specifically 1791 Wooten Drive in Section 28, Township 2, Range 8. Tyler Japp is the owner. Mr. Cardozo, would you please present the planning staff report and comments?
Yes, sir. This is PL 1748. As you mentioned, it's a request for a fence variance to encroach 10 foot into the setback. The property is 1791 Wooten Drive, and it is a corner lot. And so with it being a corner lot, we do allow a 10-foot encroachment out the side, which is technically the secondary frontage. In this case, the applicant has exceeded that. At the plane of the home, it's about 16.5 feet versus the allowed 10. And it's not measured in a straight line. There is a picture of the fence in the back of your staff report showing how it is. First section is roughly 7 feet away from the home. The second section would be an additional 7 feet, so it does encroach. 8 feet, 8 feet, or roughly about 6 feet additional. As always, the zoning variance is based on the concept of unnecessary hardship and the criteria of special conditions and circumstances that exist must be peculiar to the land structure of the building involved and not applicable to other land structures or buildings in the same district. That the legal enforcement of these provisions of these standards will deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties. The special conditions and circumstances will result in the action of the applicant, and that granting this variance request will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that's otherwise denied by the ordinance. This was tabled at the last meeting, and as you'll note, we have done several other variances on the same street for similar circumstances with the odd-shaped corner lots that went in hand has generated with their plat approval. After this, if approved tonight, we would request that the condition on all necessary building permits required for construction fence be pulled. And for the applicant's sake, if you agree to the decision tonight, you can appeal the board law in 10 days. I did provide proposed motions to approve and deny the staff report as well as tabling. And there's an aerial map And a picture of the fence is currently constructed in your staff report, as well as a survey of the lot to show the irregularity of the shape. Mr. Japp's here tonight, and I'm available if you have any questions.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Cardoza? Would the applicant please come forward and state your name and address in its entirety?
Here, sir.
Just state your name and address.
Sure. Tyler Jeff, 1791 Wooten Drive in Nesbit, Mississippi.
So is anything you'd like to,
Not necessarily, we just pushed a little past the encroachment initially when we had contracted the job at first. When we were speaking with the contractor, he actually had kind of told us that this was a pretty easy ask and kind of did it just on our behalf. So we kind of had to backtrack requesting this, so it kind of just goes to the end of our driveway and doesn't really have too much of an impact from what I can see on anything else, with the exception of giving us a little bit more of our land area. But that's about all I have.
anybody have any question for the applicant?
So the permit hasn't been filed for the fence yet?
It's been applied for, and then it did fail its final inspection because we noticed it encroached a little bit more, because the permit was pulled for 10 foot, and it encroaches a little bit more than that.
But the fence has already been constructed.
Yeah, so our contractor said he put in the permit, and then when he said that he had also applied for the variance. An inspection happened, and we were notified that the variance was not applied for, neither was the permit. So I resubmitted everything following that discovery.
So your contractor said he submitted it, built the fence, and then found out that it wasn't submitted?
Apparently he had an initial submittal of it, but had never paid any of the dues required for it. So that was when I started running it down myself, and here I am.
We have been running into that a lot. We've had several others where they can, the fence contractor just doesn't, do the process, and the homeowner's left with the burden of it after it's done.
Not for this discussion, but ought to be a way to find the fence contractors for putting homeowners in
I know,
situations like this.
I can speak from the mechanical end, like, say for some reason we don't pull a permit in time of doing the work, there is a double fee in some jurisdictions.
Yeah, we used to do that. We were told it was illegal, but I would really love to explore that here, because it happens all the time.
I know, it happens in surrounding areas, so.
All right, thank you.
I think thank you, sir.
Do we have a motion to approve, deny, or table this item?
Make a motion to approve a request to approve a fence variance to encroach 10 feet into the setbacks described with attached exhibits. Subject property is located on the south side of Andy's Way, west side of Wooten Drive, more specifically 1971 Wooten Drive in Section 25, Township 2, Range 8, based upon the following findings, A through D.
Second?
Commissioner Clark,
Aye.
Commissioner Thorne,
Aye.
Commissioner Sapling,
Aye.
Commissioner Mack,
Aye.
Commissioner Ashworth,
Aye.
Commissioner Skeen.
I just have one question. Did it say that it was like more than 10 feet? I thought you said it was like 14 feet or something like that.
So it's kind of hard to measure. At the plane of the home, it's like, I think, 16 feet. And then as it extends back to the property line, it's kind of hard to determine exactly what the encroachment is from the right-of-way line, so we just put 10 as a average of what it was.
Oh,
on the-
okay, gotcha. I just wanted to make sure he was covered.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Aye.
Motion to approve this item passes.
Yep.
Thank you all so much, I appreciate it.
That was about it. It didn't last.
Yes.
Now, before you talk about the sign, what they were talking about the double fee, what would you need to do to kind of look into that to see how would we deal with a,
So, in every experience I've ever had, we have had that rule, where if we found out you did work before a permit, it was double permit fee. And I don't want to speak to the city attorney, because it was the previous attorney's determination that we couldn't do that. And so, I do want to explore doing double permit fees, because, since we are not a technical police power, I can't write a ticket like our code enforcement. When we do that, we submit an affidavit to the police department, it goes that whole route. And so, our only, like, I guess, catch is a fine, is what we can do. And so the double permit fee is something we can add administratively if we could prove it. But we were told we couldn't. And I don't know why or how, but I think Christian was here kind of when the whole decision got made about why we couldn't do it, but.
so if we can't do that, then it's just no repercussion of a person they can just do it all day long, every day, and just
Technically, we have language in the zoning ordinance where it's a violation of the building code. We could take them to court, but just us talking, the reality is it's a lot of time and effort on the city attorneys, and just to get to the point of having $100 fine, we'd be spending a couple thousand to get to the point of having a fine.
We could put stop work orders on them if we found that they were working without permits, but then they come in. And I will say the double permit fees, because our fees are so low, they didn't really damper a lot of people from doing it. They would come in and pay the double permit fees just to get the work done, and.
Like a fence is $38.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, geez.
And I have had contractors tell me the amount of ones I get away with not pulling permits on, I don't mind paying one or two for double permit fees. For fences and things like that. HVAC.
Well, it's not just
HVAC
that, it's
change
commercial
outs
too, because
and
wasn't that a
water.
long time, not long ago, Wade had done that out there, Wade. They put up a fence and then came in and asked for a variance after they spent $40,000 on a fence or something.
Yeah, honestly, the retribution, I think that would prove something to contractors, is if we took it to court, the variance was denied, and we get to the end and they have to tear the fence down. That's what will matter. And I don't know if, I've never had one that's so extreme where it would really be worth it.
Right, and then the thing is, the homeowner's already paid for the fence, like, and that contractor's already got his money, like,
It's not fair to the homeowner.
it's not, no, it's, yeah. So,
We've had one or two that have had to move their fence before.
we
They're
had some
just so
we had
far
some
out
recently,
that they
but
had to.
I don't know if they've done it yet.
Is there an ordinance to where if you put up a fence, the railings have to be inside your property?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Because my neighbor put their fence up backwards, and I called them out on it, and then they had to come and get inspected, and it turns out they didn't have a permit, and they'd already put the fence up. Because they were putting a fence out because they put a pool in, but they didn't even have a permit pool, they already had the pool in. So their solution was to put boards on my side of the fence.
They should have had a fence permit pulled when the pool was,
Well, they didn't have either permitted, is what he said.
oh, they didn't have the pool permitted either. Oh, nice.
And you know, not to get in the weeds, but like the railings inside your fence, the pretty side out, when you have two neighbors going in together, someone's always going to be wrong.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of just the honor system, it works itself out as you go. But it's glaring on a corner lot or rear setback where it's visible from right of way. That's when it matters in our eyes of being side out.
Yep.
Is there anything, Austin, like, on the website, like if you go, how do I pull a fence permit? Like maybe some information there about setbacks and,
So they're required, when you do a fence permit, there's acknowledgements as you go down the list of the smooth side out and all the things we're talking
Okay.
about. And they put an initial by it, but a lot of times a fence contractor will do like 6 at a time and just mass do them, and they're not really reading and going, or it's someone at the office that has no idea what's going out in the field, and
right, yeah, gotcha.
all right, so with the bit of a short meeting, I was gonna introduce a couple of things we're working on as staff internally right now and get y'all's initial feedback maybe in the next couple of meetings. But the first of which is the sign ordinance update. And so what's triggered this sign ordinance update was the Supreme Court, was a case, Reed versus Town of Gilbert, and it was a church that had bandit signs, is what we call them, out by their property line advertising for a fall festival. And the Town of Gilbert said, you can't have those, signs like that are illegal. Well, the church said, but they're legal when it's political time and all the
state folks have their signs out and it's, content-based, and I think you violated my First Amendment right of free speech. And so they went all the way to the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court says yes. Regulation on a sign based on its content is a violation of the First Amendment. And so it drastically changed sign ordinances all over the country, ours included. And so the new sign ordinance is 24 pages, and our current one is 6. And it's complicated, and it's very specific once you read into the language. And so I don't expect a whole bunch of feedback tonight, but in the next few weeks, our attorneys are reviewing this ordinance now as we speak, but I will be bringing it back. So if you see anything in there that's glaring or you have any questions, let me know. And so this is going to be a collaborative effort, but primarily what this is concerned with, this whole document, is political signage, because that is one of the only things we regulate based on content in our old ordinance, is that you get certain exemptions or you get extra signage when it's political season for political signs. And so in the new ordinance, event sign long-term is quote-unquote what a political sign could or could not be considered, just because you get additional amount of signage during the times of an election. And so as y'all probably saw with the last election cycle, it was pretty out of control in Hernando with political signage. And I've been asked to reel that back in a little bit. And so the first draft of this is very restrictive on political signage. And what it means is that during any time of the year, depending on where you're zoned, you can have 2 signs. And those could be, my kid goes to Hernando High School, and I'm voting for somebody. You can have 2 of those any time of the year, which a lot of folks do already. During political season, and it's defined in here what that is, of 30 days before and 30 days after a general and primary election, you get an additional 2 signs. And so during that part of the year, you get 4 signs in your front yard that you can have. And on commercial property, which is where our issues really came with blocking right-of-ways and really clogging up commerce and the square, is we've shrunk the proposal down to an 8-square-foot sign, and commercial properties can have 2 rather than what we saw last time. I don't expect that to pass just because it is pretty restrictive, but I'm just throwing it out there as a first pass to see what direction everyone wants to go with it. Everything else in here about the definitions of signs and the sizes that we allow on commercial buildings now and how we regulate that is 1 square foot per linear foot for a maximum amount of 62.5. That's the same. So what you see on Commerce for all the businesses is not proposed to change. The other major change we do have is we've defined what a mural is. And so that's something we've run into a lot lately, is people requesting murals anywhere and everywhere in Hernando. And it's very hard to define, and it really depends on who you ask, what's good and what's not good for a mural. And I didn't think that was something we could take on administratively to regulate. And so what we proposed is to make those by conditional use. And so like if someone wants to do a mural on the side of their building, and it's as what this is defined a mural is, then it's going to come to the Planning Commission for a group decision on what's good and what's not good. And that's about the only fair way I could see to bring it about. And I think in most cases, we can understand what is good for Hernando in a mural and what's bad, because what the city of Memphis ran into is they deregulated murals at first. And what happened was a convenience store painted the entire side of their building a Mountain Dew ad at Park and Ridgeway, I believe. And it got very complicated of who can regulate what is art, what is not art, what's a commercial message versus non-commercial message. So to level the playing field, we've decided to make murals by conditional use. And so that's something to be considered. We may or may not like that. I need your feedback. And then for prohibited signs, right now there's a lot of gray area on what temporary signage is allowed. And so if you're familiar with the inflatable flags that can be in a parking lot and the string flags that can go back and forth between the parking lot, you kind of see them at used car lots a lot. Those are specifically prohibited in this new sign ordinance. And we just try to model ours off of some similar cities. And,
I see a lot of churches do those vertical signs. Those would be prohibited for churches to,
yeah, so it doesn't matter, by zoning district, they would be prohibited.
Okay.
And this is open for discussion too. I'm just trying to give you the highlights. So event, short-term, event, long-term, that's your temporary signage for political season, where we would avoid content. The murals, that's a big change. And then the prohibited signs in section 4.2. I really want y'all to take a look at that and let me know what you think. This is a pretty drastic change, and we've spent a lot of time coming up with this, and we've modeled a lot of the good ordinances we found throughout the country to get to this point. And it's complicated, but unfortunately, the Reed versus Town of Gilbert's case kind of made it this way, to where if we're gonna have a sign ordinance we can enforce, it's gonna have to be kind of complicated, so it's not content-based. So, not the most exciting read, I'll be honest, once y'all get into it, but anything you can find, if you want to handwrite it up and drop it back off my office, that would be much appreciated, or if you want to shoot me an email, anything.
I had no idea there were 42 definitions of stuff.
Yeah, there is.
And that doesn't cover all of it.
I do have a question about it. So in there, the section now, the penalty for violation, and I went ahead and looked up some other cities that we probably are using as models, Oxford, Madison, things like that. I mean, are we really having a problem in the city that warrants, that seems pretty stiff to me. I mean, that's, because, let's just say today, the people that are in here are y'all, you know, we're not concerned about it, and you say, okay, well, it's really never going to come to that. But as time passes, once this is approved, if that's on the books, and we have people that just really like to, hey, I'm going to make a statement that gives the latitude for that. And I think the last thing we want to do as far as homeowners and businesses is going around and start handing out $1,000 fines and putting people in jail over a sign.
Oh, yeah.
So,
That's the maximum, and of course, since we're
But
out of
still,
police
that's-
power, it'd be the judge's determination. That just gives him the determination of going up to that point. I
Right.
wouldn't expect him to, but
But-
Probably like if there are multiple violations by one business, then they can increase the fine as we take them to court.
absolutely. And most of the time, Russell, I wish he was here for this discussion, because he's our city prosecutor. He usually gives them time to correct, 30, 60, 90 days to correct. And then they come back, and the fines are typically stair-stepped. And that's the worst possible case scenario we could have. And that may be from the definition of a misdemeanor with state law. I don't know. And
it sounds pretty close to that.
And I will say 9 times out of 10, when I've taken people to court in the past, if the violation has been corrected because it takes 2, 3, sometimes a month to get to court from the time you issue the ticket. If the violation has been corrected, 9 times out of 10, they're going to throw
The
that
judge
first-
dismisses it.
They'll throw it out.
right.
It won't even go to the judge, the prosecutors will just throw it out, and then if it's a continual issue, then that's when.
but I'll check. It may be the definition we have to use from what a misdemeanor
Yeah, because I didn't
is.
find that the most that I found on anyone's, unless they have not updated theirs online, was that they had, I think it was I don't remember exactly, but it was way less than that. But it was, the way theirs worked, and it may have been Oxford, you got like a $50 fine, but then you didn't have as long to resolve it. And so after that, every time, you know, say if you had 5 days to get it resolved, in 5 days it was another 50, another 5 days was another 50, and so on and so on and so on. So you could rack up some pretty hefty fines if you did not resolve it, but you're not also putting something that is that extreme.
Sure. I'll check. I don't know. I do know that a lot of code enforcement departments are either held one in the planning department or they're in the police department. And the reason that is to write a summons to court, you have to be a deputized officer. I can't do it since I've not been certified and done all the whatever bonded. I'm pretty sure you have to be to write a summons. But like Horn Lake, when I was in Horn Lake, the code enforcement was all through the police department. So we would go to them, show them what the violation was, and they'd write a summons to court. And it was much quicker process than what we have. The tough part is convincing the police department to take on code enforcement.
Right.
Which I don't think will ever happen, but.
We've tried.
On the other side of that, putting a high fine in the ordinance gets people's attention. Don't make the mistake on the front end. I mean, can we put that ordinance in the fence area ordinance, right? So if you don't file a permit, you get $1,000 fine.
Yeah.
It's more of an attention grabber, isn't it? More of a, because I don't see people getting fined $1,000 either.
But you say that now because of the climate, because of what you're working with now. But like I said, you know, 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, you don't know who's in positions of authority, and they may be the ones. I'm not going to mention names, but before you came in, we had some people that would have jumped all over enforcing this.
We've never done that.
I'm not saying you. I'm saying the person that was in his position prior that I've had problems with, and I know a lot of other businesses had problems with, and it was over little nitpicking things.
Yeah, I don't know,
And
I'll
so-
check, it may be the definition of misdemeanor, and if that's the case, because that may not something I can change, but we'll find
Yeah.
options.
Yeah.
This is eye-opening to me because I didn't know there was that many sign differences, and the only time I see a sign problem is political season.
And you said the
Honestly.
political thing was 30 days prior and 30 days after?
If you go to page 12, it's got to be down 15 days after, and it can go up 60 days before. And so it's item D. That's, and we can't call it a political sign, but that's basically what that section's for.
Can I ask a question about murals?
Hmm?
You said that's a special condition,
A conditional use.
conditional use. But murals are typically permanent. So how would we put a conditional use, which is typically a time period on a conditional use? How would we do that, knowing that murals are typically permanent?
So we actually met with a group through Main Street that helped us kind of craft. They said most of the murals that people are doing now are actually this, what's the word, like a thermoplastic, like sticker kind of off a brick.
A vinyl?
And they're matte finish where it looks like paint.
just pull
Now
it down.
now a painted mural is pretty permanent. But that's the same discussion we have about pumps and convenience stores and cemeteries in the A zone. Like, these are very permanent uses that are conditional. And so, you know, you may say 25 years, and if it needs to be repainted, you gotta come back and see us. But, and to your point, with it being so permanent, that was a pretty significant decision to make administratively. Like, if I create a definition of what a mural is, and somebody comes up with something crazy, it's very permanent, what's going on inside of a building. I just really wanted that additional layer of review to catch, if that makes sense. Because what is art is a very broad question.
Well, I would think that a mural application, not to go into the weeds on this one, is that you would have to present your plan, like a sketch or a drawing of what you might potentially be, and the materials you end up using, things like that. Because I know a lot of artists in Memphis that actually do the painted murals. And they're permanent, they go forever.
Yeah, they are. And that, it's an important decision, and a lot of the things that are addressed in the approval or denial criteria of conditional use about what adversely affected the character of the neighborhood, or even traffic hazard, like, I wouldn't want it in a part of the square that distracts people from when they're driving. There's a lot of things I would want to go into the review, and the conditional use criteria kind of addressed a lot of that already. And so there's just a safeguard more than anything. So yeah, just take a look at it. Anything you see, if you just want to mark it up with a pen or shoot me an email, either way is fine. And then Steven's reviewing on the legal side, and then I'll come back with a finalized draft to you before I take it back to the Board of Aldermen for ultimate approval. But the goal of this to be done is before the next election cycle. And so in the next 45 days, I'd like to have it back in front of you to get ready for the next election.
By our January meeting.
Yes. So that's the update there. And then a short update on the comprehensive plan. I know some of us were at the kickoff meeting, the re-kickoff meeting, when they presented their final draft. And to be honest, I got a lot of negative feedback on the public input of the draft that we had, and then of how outdated it was. And honestly, I can't fault the consultant for that because of everything that happened with COVID and then Keith's passing and the administration changed. There was a lot of things that went into it. And so I've got the current draft, and I've worked it up to a point where it's caught up demographic-wise and land use-wise, and the zoning stuff has changed. The piece that was missing about public input, I've solicited for a quote to have a firm come in and re-engage the public as a whole, like have 2 or 3 public meetings, the important parts of the plan, redo the surveys that maybe some of us did. I did it back like 2019 when it was first done, but a lot has changed, and so we want to redo all that and make sure the document we have for approval is what everybody expects. And so Orion has submitted the first quote. I'm waiting on one more, and then once the board approves, I'm going to involve the planning commission again on getting the public input started back. And so I'm probably in the spring is when we'll have our next couple of public meetings to re-engage, and I'll be in touch closer to time, but that's just where we're at with it right now. And also, I know during our planning commission training, I passed out a copy of the draft. If you need one, let me know. I'll get you another copy, or I can shoot it in your email. So let me know if you need a copy. And I know this is a short meeting. Next month's probably not going to be. Sorry.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
Early Christmas.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
All right, adjourn.